Welcome back to Press here. Starting January 1st, Californians can try pot for the very first time. All right, in all seriousness, California has pot shops, but they're ostensibly there to provide marijuana as a medicine. Prop 64, which passed at the ballot box in November, makes the recreational use of pot legal, pretty much the same way it's legal in places like Colorado and Washington State. And there are obviously a lot of business opportunities here. This is a pot incubator, teaching people how to create pot startups. In exchange, the incubator, called Gateway, gets a cut of the deal, just like any other startup incubator. Ben Larson is one of the founders of Gateway. He has years of experience helping startups in Silicon Valley. Thanks for being with us.
Is cut of the deal a euphemism?
No, it's actual money. So explain that to us, right? So you will, it's a lot like Y Combinator. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you guys are familiar with the model, right?
You have a class that comes in, you teach them, they go in their startups, you even give them money.
We do.
And then you expect a piece of the company back.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, we're looking for the 10 best startups we can every 6 months. So our program lasts for about 4.5 to 5 months, and then, it culminates in a demo day.
Now, do you have extra services that a typical incubator wouldn't in terms of how to structure these deals, in terms of extra legal things? I mean, I know in Colorado, it's very thorny. Like if you're an investor, you kind of can't hold your shares unless you have certain residency.
Right.
Is even people who get excited about investing in marijuana, and even people who kind of are okay with the fuzzy legality of it, they start looking at investing in these things, and they're like the structures of it and what states allow and don't allow freaks them out.
It's quite complicated. So we spend a lot of our time actually educating, both on the founder side and the investor side. I mean, that's kind of that problem, right? That there's kind of what led us into the industry. Coming from the tech space, working with entrepreneurs in the tech space, there's a lot of standard agreements. There's a lot of ways to, just the relationships that are built in Silicon Valley. There's a very standard way of doing it. In cannabis, not so much. You're talking about a black market that's transitioning to mainstream, and at a very quick pace. So there's a lot of interesting relationships. The legislation is complicated. So we just work really hard to make sure that everyone understands what's going on.
I've seen some of your videos where you talked about going beyond, just medical and getting high. What are some of those things? Because I had a glance on your site and I saw companies like Grow Room, a charitable giving platform, that there was a cannabis in his hands, and then something with a banana-infused smoothie. So creative stuff, but what is going beyond medical for this? What the companies are going to offer?
Sure. So it's a very dynamic plan. If you look at the structure of the plant itself, you're talking about hundreds of compounds in the plant that all have different effects on the body. So yeah, you can smoke it, you can get high. You can also extract certain compounds that don't have the psychoactive effects, but can treat medical ailments. And just in that makes it very confusing. As human beings, we're very used to dropping things into buckets. And that's where cannabis is so complicated, is we can't just drop it into one bucket. And so you do have the medical applications that are very clear and transparent. You're talking about kids with epilepsy that are basically being cured because of certain strains of cannabis. And then on the other end, you have people creating banana smoothies that are just enjoying kind of that euphoric feeling.
And to repeat, as of January 1st, right, that will be legal in California.
So technically, yes. It's going to take about a year to put in all the legislation.
Sure.
So 2018 is kind of the target where that structure.
But there's no more of this, pretending one or doing the other.
Yeah, I've got a headache.
Hey, yeah, we're just.
There will still be a medical structure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me, Ben. Do you have any in your incubator who are not involved in the actual getting the product to the consumer? I mean, I imagine there are a lot of businesses in which you'd say, yes, I'm in the pot business, but we don't touch the pot. We handle the banking, or we handle the. Are there startups doing that?
Yeah. So we've worked with about 15 companies at this point, and I'd say about 3/4 of them don't touch the plant. In our first cohort, actually, 5 of the 7 companies were completely ancillary tech companies. You're talking about seed to sale tracking, inventory management, application of AI for delivering the knowledge that's, so I was explaining, so complicated. The plant's complicated. There's all these delivery mechanisms, so many ailments. How is any one person going to have all that knowledge? That's where technology really comes in handy, is we can compile all the knowledge and provide, an experience that is unique to each user.
I definitely get the value of specialization with something that's this complicated. every sense of the plant and building a business. But do you worry that this is just too narrow of a market? I mean, I think if Y Combinator was hearing you say you're the Y Combinator pot, they'd be like, no, the point is we don't go narrow.
I never actually said
well, when they hear Scott say that, the point is that they can be mattress companies, they can be SaaS when they gets hot, they can be mobile, they can be chatbots, they can be whatever is exciting entrepreneurs. I mean, I guess my question is, what motivates you? Because I think this is an exciting challenge. It'd be hard to convince me that this is the best place to make money in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you're not going to see a Y Combinator pumping out hundreds of companies every cohort. We're very stuck to working with 10 companies. We find a lot of value of us, the founders, being involved with each company. But there is going to be a lot of value for a couple reasons. And the way we look at it is kind of like twofold. The market itself is growing astronomically. It doubled from $2.7 billion in sales to 5.4 in 1 year. And you're talking about projections of $100 billion by the 2029. That's like some huge growth. So if you're building companies that are getting a lion's share of that market share, you can build a successful company. But cannabis also has a really big opportunity to become a beachhead for many other industries. I mean, if you think about the margins that are being made on the cannabis plant compared to, say, tomatoes or lettuce, you're making orders of magnitude more in the margin. And so if you're applying those margins to technologies like LED lighting, vertical farming, technologies that can be applied to these other ones, once the technology is refined and the price is driven down, it could be really impactful. So, China, I know, is very interested in the LED technology that's been developed in the cannabis industry and how that might be applied to these other mainstream industries.
At the same time, Jeff Sessions could be coming in the Trump administration as Attorney General. Not a fan of marijuana. So
not a fan, but most attorney generals aren't. Right? So it's like,
could this affect your investment, though?
It could affect our investment, to be very honest. He's not the most favorable when it comes to cannabis, but neither was Loretta Lynch. Let's be honest. Trump and the administration is kind of the big wild card. We had a lot of excitement when 8 of the 9 states that were on the ballot all passed, and then the next week it was just like, oh, these appointees are looking a little scary. But when you're talking about the industry and its ability to impact the American economy and just like the different industries that it impacts, you're talking, just last week I was seeing articles that were coming out talking about how these indoor grow facilities were really increasing the value of these vacant warehouses. And Trump being, a real estate man himself, like that is a line of speak that he could really understand.
I feel like you're counting on him to be more rational than he is.
You're probably right.
But to be fair, what he says and what they end up doing, we don't know. I mean, there's been so many things. Is there any legal exposure to you? Let's say new Attorney General Jeff Sessions says, I'm cracking down, and you got a piece of every one of these companies. Does that put you in any legal exposure?
We've took a very calculated look at this. We've worked with a very mainstream legal team. So Morgan Lewis, it's one of the larger legal teams in the U.S., has helped us structure kind of the investment to not only protect us, but also protect our investors.
The answer is yes, and we're working on it?
We're working on it. And, there's a couple things at play here. A lot of our companies are just trying to solve problems. Like, that's what we learned in the tech industry. You identify a problem, you identify a lot of people that need it.
Ben Larson, you said there are a couple of things, and I haven't got time. But Ben Larson with Gateway, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Press here will be back in just a minute.